Some consider the decision to own a custom car or hot rod an impulse, while for others it's a financial stake for the future.
Car industry is people's pleasure, fun. It's a different kind of investment than the 401k that you do with the government. That one is for them, this one is for yourself.
The lure of owning a hot rod or cool car excites the imagination.
And if they can dream it, I can build it.
But it takes craftsmen with special skills to create a dream ride.
At the end of the day, if they don't sell it, you gotta make it.
Welcome to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. Our first stop today in our visit to the left coast is the uniquely named 401k shop.
401k Club is a corporation that was designed by me and a partner of mine that we both had cars that we had too many cars for our garage. So we decided to open up a warehouse where other people had the same issue and they could store their cars, take them home on the weekends, leave them here during the week. That part didn't take off. We restored a couple of cars and as you see, that took off. The process of building one of these cars, I tell people it takes three things. One is a clear idea of what you want. The second is a place like our shop full of professionals that can do all the different facets of the build for you. The third is the financing, which is, again, back to the owner.
In one corner of the shop was an interesting work in progress.
This is a little bit more unique project that we have here at the 401k. This is a 54 Studebaker Commander. Don't see too many of these, so we try to keep them alive. This is an original car, and we're doing some body mods to it right now. This is a side cowl vent that we've cut out and we've filled it in. This car also, we've put a new frame underneath. We've got a small block Chevy in it, so it ought to get up and go pretty good. Some of the other things we're doing on body mods over here on this rear fender, we have this is the old gas door frame, so we've cut this out. We filled this in here and then let it over it. So it'd be a nice smooth car. So no moldings, no vent holes, no gas door holes, everything be smooth.
Another vehicle here today is an aggressive take on a classic machine.
They came to me with an idea. We talked about what they wanted. He wanted a blower, he wanted a stick shift. She didn't want the blower, she didn't want the stick shift, he wanted a gasser. So I told him, he says, if you put a straight axle into this, she's not gonna be very happy. So we have a 540 blown big block with 850 horsepower, a 6-speed transmission, full gasser with independent front suspension, one-off suspension that we built here in the shop, 4-link, again, that we built here in the shop. Sometimes it's a battle, who wins, but at the end of the day, what doesn't break you down makes you stronger. And most times, most of our customers go through a white knuckle portion where they feel uncomfortable, but we usually walk them through that, and at the end of the day, they're happy. Lucy Moyer, all of 4'6", drives the thing around town. People come in here expecting me to build a car in a short period of time. I just explain the reality and the three things it takes to make a car what it is. I build cars in 10 months or 3 years, and the more time you have into something, the better off it's going to be.
Sometimes the 401k shop takes on a full restoration project inside and out.
The unique story behind this one here is he bought it 25 years ago, spent a few years working on it, and then found a lovely young lady that he married and had a family with. Now he's got a kid that's turning 18, and we actually brought it in here for us to get running, just to be able to give to the 18-year-old son. One thing's kind of led to the next. We ended up pulling the motor, detailing the engine bay, repainting the car. We're redoing the interior, the exhaust, and all the suspension underneath the car. We should be able to wrap this project up here in the next couple of months.
Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products will have more 401k coverage in a moment. This edition of Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products is being brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. and by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products. The 401k Hot Rod Shop has a wide variety of projects in various stages of construction, and that diversity is its specialty.
The range of work that we do in this shop is everything from maintenance and repair, if you need an oil change or you need a brake job, engines, just about anything you can think of. This is a 1970 Cuda. We tracked the VIN numbers back to Pennsylvania, which is why you see all this rust. The floorboards are completely gone, the rockers, the front subframe, the quarter panels, all the rust around the trunk in this area here, the floor pans. See here, part of the structural integrity of the car. What's good with this car probably is going to be the top, the D-pillar, the A-pillar, and the firewall. The rest of it will probably all be cut off. At this point, where we're going with this car is we're going to build a substructure frame inside of it and then send it off to an acid dip and have it sitting in an acid dip for a few days. And after that comes out, whatever's left, we'll cut apart and replace all the panels and have this thing ready for debut out at SEMA. Call it a Cuda, but it's going to be a challenge for us. Once you start digging into cars, you find surprises. What we do is we just completely bring the customer aware of what's going on. We bring them in and they make the decisions of which way we go. So this is a car from a client from Europe, and this is a 72 Corvette, and he brought it to us to upgrade the suspension to handle the 650 horsepower that he has under the hood. So as we took the old suspension down, we find a lot of rust up here in the chassis and the frame. Some of these components we couldn't get out because they were rusted up. And then over here you look and see that the frame has a big hole in it. So these are the kinds of surprises that, we talk about, the crossroads and decisions that have to be made with customers. In this case, what we're going to do is this chassis is going to come out. We're going to get a whole new chassis, stock chassis, powder coat it, detail it, install new suspension from Ridez in it, reinstall it so that it'll have the chassis that he wants. We've got about 25 projects going on in the shop at this time. This particular car came to us as an insurance repair. He was driving down the road and rear-ended a Honda. What we ended up doing with it is we replaced these fenders, running boards, blended them all together, replaced the hood sides, grill shell, rebuilt all the front suspension, repainted the car. We have a schedule for each car. Each process is broken down into time frames. Some processes can be done simultaneously. As we're doing paint and body, we can be doing chassis work, building interior components. But we have a checklist that we check off and then have a time to detail every car before it goes home.
Planning any restoration is crucial, and Dana explains their approach to a project.
This is kind of a unique story. This is a 1964 Cadillac, and this guy's father bought this off the showroom floor. After driving it for several years, he sold it. The son acquired it years later, and now he wants to restore it back to original. So what we do with these things when they come in, and after we discuss what we're going to do, we have a little checklist here. We kind of go through the car here. We start looking at what the problems are with the car, rust problems, paint problems, and on this particular car, we plan on taking this and media blasting this down to the bare metal, taking all the glass out of it, stripping all the interior out of it, and there'll be some minor putty and metal work to do. You can see some bubbling in the paint and metal here. Redoing all the trim work here. You can see it's all worn out here. So that'll all be recast, repopped. The metal work around the edges here. You can see all around here. The back in here. All this metal work will have to be taken care of. Again, we're going to repaint this car a nice factory gloss black. Redo the interior with some black and gold interior. Just kind of make it look a little original and put some new touches on it. So this is some of what we do here at the 401k, is we help people build their investments, and remember, drive your investment.
It's plain to see that a project from the pros at 401k is definitely money well spent. Stay with us, because when Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products returns, we'll drop in on one of the radical stars in hot rodding, Rich Evans. Welcome back to Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber. Our next stop in our California excursion is Huntington Beach Body Works, where Rich Evans applies his talents to a variety of vehicles.
I don't pick up the magazines and I don't watch what everybody else is doing. I'm just kind of in my own shell doing what I love to do. Starting in a muffler shop, started underneath the cars where it wasn't too cool. Found, first car I built when I was 13, 69 Nova, found like body was everything you see first, body, wheels. So that's kind of where, where it all started for me. I've always, since I was a kid, has been told to be a leader, not a follower. All builders, they work off of each other and different ideas from, early times and current times. And for me, it's, having a vision, putting it on paper or nowadays computer and just making it real. Putting me on the map is when I got taking some of my punk rock days and, doing tattooing on vehicles. When I met a guy named Terry Stevens, he was doing a lot of small stuff and I'm like, bigger, tattoos look cool. What about a car going down the road? That looks cool. So, and I had a lot of guys tell me, it's like, man, I see your stuff at the shows, but I don't ever see you in magazines or the TV, so it kind of just lit a light bulb. Said, well, yeah, that makes sense. If I can use that small screen or use that magazine, that's how many, instead of going to a car show, you'll be able to get a lot more press and a lot more people knowing what you're doing.
Rich took a moment to show us a work in progress to demonstrate how his mind gets wrapped around reshaping something like a 41 Ford.
Customers got it, it's been here for a while, we're just going stock basically with it, and he started saying, hey, how can I simplify this car, or how can I make it different? And he's done 3 or 4 tours over Iraq, so it's like, hey man, this is, well, we could do suicide doors or get rid of the running boards and let's lengthen the door, the doors and the quarter panel so it looks a little bigger. Simplifying, getting rid of seams, get rid of this seam, we get rid of this vent right here, actually gives us a better better surface that when he's looking down at it, you don't have all these obstacles. And that's just what this particular customer wants. And then we've got the suicide doors. It's actually allowing, to me, this looks right. And back when hot rodding started, it was like, put a front end, a Cadillac front end on this, put that. It was intermixing parts to make something cool and kind of getting that vision. That's how you get the vision. And for me, it's just the details. It's like the square versus the radius. I'm more into the radius, the cleanness. We put the radiuses here instead of the square. You can see that. And then we extended these inner rockers, got rid of the running boards that are usually here. And then you can see we kept the latch on the door versus the A-pillar and extended the door 3 inches. A lot of times, your average car guy or your average hot rodder won't know what goes into creating little details. Details are big for me. Just took the fenders and made them part of the body, because to me, just throwing a radius right here looks cleaner instead of bolting all these pieces on and off. Same with the front fenders. Those are 3-piece front fenders. We made them into, part of the car. Which, different types of models. It's just get rid of the gutter here, because this is going to give a better radius here when we come in. And then following this radius down, we've put this into a radius instead of a square. That's normally a square. All the way down here, you can see where it was square. Now it's a radius. It just fits better, that rear body. And it looks better. And it's easier to prep. Got rid of the holes here for the trunk. Put a piece of metal in there, threw it in the English wheel. Put some Gene Winfield tail lights in here instead of the ones going long ways. We're probably gonna do something with the bumpers here, but we haven't talked about that yet. So basically, work in progress, get rid of the moldings, simplify it. Door handles, shaving the door handles. This is what I was talking about here. I mean, a lot of people won't notice this, but this square, this was the shape of the door. right there. This looks a lot better. You know, back in the 40s, they didn't really care about gaps and stuff. So for me, it's the mock-up, it's the gapping, it's the fit and finish, and it's planning, you know, planning how that end results. It's pulling everything apart and how do you get it all back together in that same mock-up form. You know, it's those tools that you develop on your way.
When we come back to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, Rich will show how he's applied his talents to the current muscle car crop. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Evapo Rust, super safe rust remover. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. Rich Evans' work has been so innovative that it's caught the attention of the major manufacturers in Detroit.
Yeah, the Challenger, I partnered up with Mopar, and it was like, hey, we like what you did with the Mustangs in 2007. And it's like, okay, so cool, man. I can do it with you know, with the Challenger too. It's just kind of creating and taking, you know, my concept of here and fitting it to that car. And you know, my key to that was to make parts that people can just bolt on for the consumer. That's a 19-piece kit on the Mustang. That's hard for any individual just to bolt on. You got to be a fabricator or a builder to make it happen, and it's expense. So then I started thinking, okay, hey, a 9-piece kit still makes it beefy. It's easy for the consumer to put on. So I did all that, and it was just like, you know, that car, and design your own, you know, graphic where it makes it look like it's going 100 miles an hour, standing still. Those are just things that I look at. What's cool to me? How do you make it a little different than what's out there? You know, you just consistently design and come up with ideas. Some are good, some aren't. Some you just throw away, you know, 90%, 99% of ideas you throw away, but you just put them to use, you take it from paper, and you make it a reality.
While Rich's packages for modern muscle cars are a good business, his passion runs deep for some of the classics from yesteryear.
41 Caddy 61 series. I do a lot of my dirty work outside because I don't like to mess up my shop. And plus, I pay for the weather around here. Southern California weather, we're pretty spoiled. You know, that's just a basic. The guy just wants it simple, wants it clean, wants it straight. You know, I get down there and, you know, car's been around 70 years or whatever. Start grinding, and it's just I can get deeper and deeper into Bondo. And these rockers were all rusted out. And this has got a nice radius down here. If you're looking at it, it's got a nice radius, and that's what I was talking about earlier. You've got this radius here, but then it arcs. It's like, I'm gonna spend more time trying to fix this, and as these guys have, and it's still gonna keep having that problem. So why continue? Why don't you just cut that piece off, make a new piece, put it on? For me, this is the best place to bring it because you got a big gap on the door, and I can make that almost all metal finished right in there. And then I can actually arc it out a little bit more to follow the contour of the door. Because if you know these from factory, when they're sitting here from factory, that you've got almost a 1/4 inch of a gap. So this actually gives it a better fit and finish. And that's what I enjoy doing. Every customer is different. So for me, it's, you know, I'll get a customer here and, you know, they'll have a basic of what they want to do, and I'll have other vehicles or other projects I've done, or, you know, I'll throw them some ideas, but it really, to me, is building what they want.
Rich's eye for design is not limited to the classics. He also tweaks the look on cars meant for speed.
At the 63 Nova Pro Street, basically welding the seams here in the cow. Obviously this is start and go, stop and go. And I go at the customer's paces. You got the bumper, nice little radius here, so there's no gap normally. Took this bumper, cut it in half, brought it to the body, made it become part of the body, because that really will look good. See, this wheel diameter is bigger, so we got about a 4-inch stretch here, where you can see it here and here. These aftermarket panels, you got to shrink it, so all this was shrunk. If you look down the side of this door, this was all pregnant before, and we had to go in here and remove the reinforcement beam in there and hammer and dolly and paint it. But for me, I just take a straight edge, put it on there until that mound is out, and then we've got a foundation to work on top of. Fender the quarter panel, and A lot of people won't really notice that until after they're done painting it. This is a 56 Chevy that I'm building. I've got the frame pretty extent into the frame, but this body actually lifts off the frame 20 inches. And these rocker panels, everything's steel. So if you've ever seen under a 56 Chevy, they have a lot of ribs going on, a lot of obstacles. These wheel wells, folded these in. I like to use the 1/4 inch rod right here. Follow everything, makes it a lot stronger. It's not gonna rattle around on you. So this is just all miles and miles of TIG welding.
The next car we saw is an 8-day build of a mid-60s luxury car icon.
You know, we're gonna put ABS disc brakes on it. We're gonna put Dakota digital dash on it. We're gonna put tilt steering. We're gonna drop a 460 in there. And we're gonna put a new top on it. I'm gonna put leather floors on it, leather seats. And you know, this thing is just a complete roach. But it's like, hey, keep it positive, manpower versus the clock. You guys familiar with the Continental? They usually have that chrome molding running down here, so it's made out of stainless steel, so I just utilized that, welded those in, and did the gas pedal, the brake pedal, Rich Evans steering wheel from Grant Steering Wheels, put a Dakota dash in it, the suicide doors, that's what makes this car so unique. We've got the interior, little diamond, got right here, steel rubber. Look at all, if you start adding up all the pieces that they have to make, felts around the vent wings, the bumper stops on the gas door, got the convertible top, just an all-around cool ride. You know, having relationships and sponsors, I couldn't build cars without my sponsors, I can tell you that. Having steel rubber, and when you call them, it's like, you know, they make all the rubbers for these cars. They've taken the time to reproduce these rubbers and door stops and bumpers and, you know, for all these individual, if you look at how many different cars are out there, that's amazing that they're taking the time to do that and having them available so we can actually restore our vehicles.
Our final vehicle has a Rich Evans trademark look.
The Skull King came along in 2005, and it was like, yeah, you know, I had this wild idea. It's like, there's so much more underneath a car. There's so much detail, nobody misses it. But how do you make a body lift off the chassis so you can view all that? That was my wild idea. Then it gets you more thinking, and engineering becomes involved when, you know, I don't go to school to be an engineer, but you got to figure out things, and that's what I'm good at. I can watch somebody do something, I can do it. That's my gift I found when I was younger. For me, as a builder, I like to surround myself with guys that are talented and passionate about what they do. And you know, not being afraid of what people think of what you're doing. Build it because you like it. Build it because you own it. You gotta drive it, you gotta live with it. At the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for.
That's all the time we have for today, but be sure to join us next week when Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products heads east to the NSRA Nationals, where we'll get a look at many of the award-winning cars. See you then.